When it comes to deciding between using plugins or analog hardware, it's no secret that plugins are way easier and more convenient to use in your everyday workflow for music production, mixing, and mastering. When you're comparing the advantages of mixing in the box versus using analog hardware, it's easy to see that plugins are way more cost-effective, far more convenient with instant session recallability, automation, and the list goes on and on. But even with all those advantages, there's still something to be said about the analog warmth and sound quality that you can get from high-quality analog hardware. But that got the geniuses over at McDSP thinking, what if somebody finally came along and gave us a product that did both at the same time? That is exactly what the McDSP APB is. APB stands for Analog Processing Box. I've been lucky enough to have a chance to test this out in my studio for the past few weeks, so I can break down for you all the ins and outs, helpful features, and delicious sounding plugins that come included with the APB. The unit I'm going to be demonstrating is the APB-16. That means that this box will offer 16 channels of pure analog processing in your DAW. As you can see, there are no knobs on the front of this unit because everything that you do is controlled by the plugins McDSP designed for you to use anywhere in your mix and master. This is capable of analog processes from EQ, compression, saturation, limiting, and multiband. And the plugin collection that's included gives you a variety of flavors of each. And that's what we're going to be exploring a little bit later in the plugin demonstration section of this video. But first, let's talk about how unbelievably easy it is to hook this up. If you flip it around to the back, you'll see there's an input for power, a Thunderbolt cable to connect it to your computer, and a clocking cable to connect to your audio interface. And that's it. No XLR cables, no stereo quarter-inch jacks going in and out all kinds of different ways from your interface. Just clean, simple, 3 cables, gives you 16 channels of pure analog audio. And that's something that is completely unique and, in my opinion, groundbreaking and worth taking a listen. The session that I'm going to be mixing is a track that I produced for Easy McCoy featuring City Wolf, titled Bow Down, and all of these instruments were recorded and sequenced here in Ableton, and I always like mixing and mastering and producing all in one project, and using the APB plugins makes it extremely easy to keep my old in-the-box workflow while implementing these fantastic analog processes into my mix. Let's take a listen to the song from the beginning.
Give me the ball, give me the rock, up to the last second. I'm taking a shot, I'm moving and shaking and big, cooking them without an apron, doing it so amazing.
So as you could hear, this song already has somewhat of a rough mix going, and we're going to be taking all these analog processes and take the mix to the next level. We're even going to be touching on the master chain as well. So let's start out by grouping together all of the instruments into this session into different categories. And we're going to start by going through all of the APB plugins. The unit comes with 12 plugins, and whenever a new one comes out, they add that to your collection for you. You don't have to purchase these separately at the moment. And let's start out with just a basic limiter. I like to mix into a limiter. We're going to be visiting our master chain again later, but I like to just know that I have that basic ceiling on here. So I'm going to go for the L18 limiter, and let's pull up the limiter here, and let's just find a nice balance for the gain knob, and let's just slow down the release because this is like a really high energy style of music. I like to keep the release a little bit faster.
Give me the ball, give me the rock, up to the last second. I'm taking a shot, I'm moving and shaking it big, cooking them without an apron, doing it so amazing, setting the pace, the records I'm breaking. Look at the name, all in the lights, the biggest to do it for life. I'm doing it now, leading the blind. I might have said, don't believe the hype. I'm ready and set to go. I like the sun, the zero below. I am the first, conquer the earth, yeah, king of the universe.
So we've just got a basic level going and a ceiling on our track, and this is an analog limiter. And it was just as easy as loading up a regular plugin to apply this analog limiting to our whole mix. We can turn it on and off and A/B it, automate any of these knobs, just as easy as using a regular plugin, but it's an actual analog limiter. And like I said, this is a 16-channel analog processing box. Our stereo limiter is using 2 of those channels. So if we're going to be using all stereo plugins, we get 7 more plugins to load up before we're out of space. It even comes with a nice APB status meter to show you have 2 out of your 16 channels in use. So let's go and use all of the space that we have. You can obviously freeze and flatten things, but I'm the kind of person, as you can see by my production, that doesn't freeze and flatten things if we don't have to. And the APB-16 is absolutely perfect for that. So let's go ahead into our drums group and now get a little bit more saturation and grit going here. One of my favorite things about analog hardware is the saturation. So of course, the first place I love to look is the saturation plugin saying, give me all the juice you got. And the KD1 has plenty of juice for you. Now this plugin visually kind of reminds me of the dashboard of a vehicle, and I really like that. It takes a little bit of, I guess, translating to help you understand what exactly you're adjusting. So let's just play the drum loop during the chorus here, and I'll solo the drums and loop the drums. Oops, looks like I accidentally got the 808 in here. Yep, let me get disrespectful 808 out of the drums group. I think we'll have a better time saturating our drums if the 808 is not in there. And we'll also keep the kick out of there too. We're really just saturating everything else. Here we go. So when we turn up our drive, we're turning up the input gain going into the saturation. And you can see that increasing here on the voltage meter. Beside it, we have AWD, RWD, and FWD. What that translates to is high frequency saturation, low frequency saturation, and full spectrum saturation. Let's try and focus some saturation just in the lows, and this is going to really beef up the rest of the drum since we took the kick and sub out. And we can use our focus knob to get a frequency range going. Focus amount would be the dB boost that we're doing. A little bit of tone shaping and saturation going at the same time. Now, kinetic refers to how it responds as it slopes off in volume. If you have the kinetics knob all the way to the right, only the transients of the sounds will be getting distorted, and as it tails off and becomes quieter, not so distorted. Versus this, it'll be distorted the whole time. Maybe in a vocal example, you'd have an easier time hearing the kinetics knob, but for drums, let's keep it right around the center. You can hear it here in the top end. Let's go up here. And then of course a dry wet, so you could do easy parallel processing. Maybe you wanted a little bit of that dry signal, a little bit less of the wet signal, and more overall drive. Let's AB with and without. Let's put the whole mix in. Hey. So that is my favorite plugin here within the APB, the Kinetic Drive KD1, and saturation is really just the tip of the iceberg. Let's go into these guitars. Let's try and add a little bit of EQ onto these guitars and see if we could really bring out those lower mids. I want them to really sustain that entire area of the mix because it's just drums, guitars, and vocals pretty much. There's not even that much going on in the effects. So I think we could get a lot more beef going on here in like the 400 to 800 area. So let's try and boost that. And actually, before I do that, let me also link the left and right side. Let's turn the frequency up. Let's also get the buzz and crackle of the guitar popping too. dial in some nice sub, maybe like around 80 or 90. Oh. And without the guitar EQ. Back on. Gain match a little better. So that simple boost matched with a little reduction on the trim is going to give the guitars a really nice place in the mix. So let's check out on our APB status. We've used 6 out of our 16 channels. That makes sense. We got 3 of our plugins open. I want to pull up one more plugin here on my guitars. Let's hit them with the chicken head. And I love this compressor because of the sauce knob. You're going to hear what this does in a second. It really brings out the warmth of everything. Let's turn the sauce off. Sauce. Sauce is doing something similar to what we were doing in the EQs, just accentuating the lower mids. But I love when compressors blend tone shaping with dynamic control because it just gives you a really nice hybrid of both of those processes. Speed up the release. Really light compression. Not trying to go crazy on these guitars. I might even bring down the ratio. We could even use this to set up sidechain compression just like we would with any other plugin. It's crazy how easy it is to do analog sidechain compression or analog EQ, whatever you want it to be. It's just as easy as doing it in the box with plugins, except for we're here with the APB.
Give me the ball, give me the rock. Up to the last
now we're doing a little sidechain compression on the kick.
Cooking them without an apron. Doing it so amazing. Setting the pace, the records I'm breaking. Look at the name, all in the lights. The biggest to do it for life. I'm doing it now, leading the blind. I might have said, don't believe the hype. I'm ready and set to go.
Back on.
The sun is super below. I am the first, conquer the earth. Yeah, king of the universe.
Boom. How about that for some analog sidechain compression? Feels like you're doing it in the box, but you're doing it with all pure analog transistors, transformers, conversion, all that sauce inside the APB-16. Let's move on and sauce up these vocals. Now these vocals have some plugins going on within the group. Like I already mixed these when I was producing, put some EQs, some reverb on it, some delay throws, all while I was producing. What I'm doing here is from the perspective of a mixing engineer. I'm taking the producer's work, consolidating it together and making the groups sit nice together as a mix. So let's go ahead and apply some Moo Tube compression to the vocals group. This is one of 2 processes that we're going to be doing. I just love having tube compression to complement all the digital in the box compressors that I'm using earlier in the mix. Let's dial in a really light amount. Fast recovery. A little bit of output gain. Without it.
I'm the star the world awaited. My face in the constellation, pushing the limitations. I do it for generations. It's timeless, no duration. You see that I'm elevated, mama. I made it from the occasion. Got out the matrix. I am the favorite, breaking it down, kicking it down.
So we've got just a little bit extra push of compression on here, using the tube saturation to give it a little bit more characteristic, but I also want to do something a little bit more aggressive going into it. I'm going to use another KD1 kinetic drive. And like I was saying earlier, that kinetics knob does something really interesting on vocals. When you have it to the left, the entire vocal will be distorted. When you have it to the right, just like the attack of the vocal will be distorted. So I want to add some distortion to this whole chorus section.
First, conquer the earth. Yeah, king of the universe.
Let's do a little bit wet. hear it with and without.
First, conquer the earth, yeah, king of the universe. Bow down,
Without it.
bow down, you're in the big league sound. Bow down to the
A little bit more drive.
bow down,
Without it.
bow down,
Back on.
you're in the big league sound. Bow down to the king.
And like I said, automation is just as easy as it would be with any other plugin. So we could show automation lanes here, and we could take away the wet signal and have this just be something that we do during the hook.
King of the universe. Bow down, bow down,
And we can copy this automation over here to our next chorus. And when we recall this project, all of this automation will be here perfectly, just as it was when it was a plugin. This truly is pretty groundbreaking, and it sounds amazing. So let's go into our next section of the song we haven't heard yet, the bridge.
bad down, kiss the ring. Yeah, bad down, bad.
And let's bypass the vocal plugins.
Bad down to my feet. Bad down to the king.
Back on.
Bad down, kiss the ring. Bad down to the king. Bad down to my feet. Now, bad down to the king.
Let's check our APB status box. Let's see. We have we've used 14 out of our 16 channels. We could do a 2-channel plugin here to finish this off. So now that we've got our drums, guitars, and vocals dialed in, let's revisit our master chain.
Bow down, bow down, you're in the big league sound.
As I increase the knee, I hear a little bit more openness in the dynamics, so I'm going to keep that a little bit above 60. I still like the fast release. I think the gain maybe can just be decreased a little bit.
Bow down,
So we're not hitting it so hard. Let's adjust the color.
big league sound. Bow down to the king. Bow down, bow down, you're in the big league sound. Bow down to the king. Bad down, kiss the ring.
These things sound amazing.
Bad down to the king.
Let's hear this one last time with all of the APB plugins turned off, back to where the mix originally started, and our final finished product.
Bad down, kiss the ring. Bad down to the king. Bad down to my feet. Now, bad down to the king. Bow down, bow down, you're in the big league sound. Bow down to the king. Bow down, bow down, you're in the big league sound. Bow down to the king.
So there you have how to mix and master your track using all analog plugins. It's such a game changer to have the benefits of software and plugins, plus the benefits of hardware and analog saturation all at the same time. Of course, because this is analog processing going on under the hood, when you go to bounce your song, you either have to freeze and flatten the tracks with the APB plugins on it, or bounce your song in real time. Your 3-minute song will take 3 minutes to bounce out, but that's a small inconvenience compared to the major benefits that you get from using analog processing in this very special and unique way. When you consider the price of how much 16 channels of hardware processing would cost you, plus the converters to connect it all and the interface to hook it all up, you would be looking well over the price of an APB-16, which is $7,000. This is a tool for very high-end studios, producers, engineers. As you can see, these plugins mix into your productions just as easily as any simple VST or AU plugin plugin. It's even compatible, like I said, with Pro Tools or any other DAW that you like to use. You could drop the plugins right into your host and get some analog quality processing without having to go through the hassle of mixing with analog gear the old-fashioned way. So there you have my review and listening example of the McDSP APB-16. If you want to learn more, visit McDSP.com, and I'll catch you guys next time in another tutorial. Peace out.